Europe, we're not going to give you much. They didn't have much. So they put up a pretty violent fight. They knocked out, I think, 3 tanks by using 2 of them with that short artillery, and 1 of them, I think, they do knock off the treads. So how do the North Koreans attack? Well, they come in straight at them, hold them there for a second, then send off a group around the left-hand side, pretty much envelop them, and then what do they do? What do the Americans do? Well, pretty much every man for themselves, and they come back through it. So this is how that first battle went. Of the Task Force Smith, which was, I think, I don't remember the numbers, 100 and some, only about 30% of them make it back. The rest of them are pretty much wiped out. So now the second group coming in is the 21st to start to set up on the next town. Same thing exact happens. Set up the area, the North Koreans come in, fight them a little bit from front, send out an enveloping move to the left-hand side, and pretty much destroy them. By this time, of course, the general's getting a little bit worried. They know that there's 10 divisions coming at them from the North Koreans by that point. They are already sending in a lot of Air Force and Navy planes at this point. They are armed with missiles and are able to knock out the tanks a little bit. Of course, you all know their support this time is P-51s. Haven't had too many jets yet because all of them are over in Europe. So there's not too much that they can do, but those P-51s can fight them, and they can hit them if they're lucky. So they do at least make it so that they slow them down a little bit, buy them some time. If you look a little bit further over here, you can see all the squares for the divisions coming in. The 24th Infantry Division, of course, is set up here in the Daejeon area. And that's that Coon River. It's a big arc that goes up around that area there that they're trying to set up and trying to protect. I'm going to set there. And that's the stage that's coming up where Uncle Donnie's coming up by train and then hiking up there into the Coon River. With that, I need a drink. Any questions to this point?
All of the stuff that you've been talking about is south of the river, right, where they pick out the bridges and everything?
Yes.
This is all south.
Yes, so the South Koreans at this point, everybody up above there, you know, that's 75–80% of their people, they were all isolated up above the river. So they start filtering back, but they left all their artillery, they left everything and came back down in here. The Americans at this point now are flooding the country with as much hardware and stuff as they can in the south, through Busan and through Yeonil and that area. Can't fly much in because there's only 3 airports. The rest of the place, nothing that can even land. Bring in their ships as much as they can, but North Koreans are punching their way through everything. I mean, nothing is stopping them at all. Yeah?
Weren't there a bunch of Chinese coming in too?
Not yet. That doesn't happen for another 1.5 years.
Oh.
So that's a long ways yet. This is the beginning. This is the first couple of weeks of the war. So the Chinese are not involved. It's purely the North Koreans. We know now that it was really being directed by the Russians. We actually, until like 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't know that officially. It was all classified. But what actually ends up that Song, this is the grandfather of the nutcase that's there now, was fighting underneath Stalin in Russia during World War II. And he got all his training and so forth with Stalin.
Tom, we have another Korean War veteran that showed up that was on the reservoir.
Oh, were they? Oh, so you're Joseph? Yeah. Yeah. So that's a little later too. Were you there? When did you go in? When did you go to Korea?
I was in Korea. I joined the 2nd Division up south of the Yellow River.
Okay.
November 24th,
Okay. So that's
1950.
Yeah. So that's 5, 6 months later. How about you? When were you?
I was in the Navy. All I did was bounce around on a boat.
Yeah. Some projectiles.
I saw Korea. It was not big.
Yes.
What happened to the people who were left up there?
They're on their own. So like I say, majority of them didn't make it. Some of them did make it across on foot and by hand. Our folks that were in Seoul, that were our military advisors, came across. There was about 15 or 20 of them that came across and actually met up with MacArthur on that day on the 28th. And they gave him a little bit of an idea what was going on. But most of them didn't make it. Most of them didn't make it at all. As you can see up here, a lot of when you look at the South Korean positions and so forth, they will say remnants. We'll say and so forth. I should also mention, of course, because Japan and Asia was such a backwaters area, according to America, to Truman, that all of the divisions were under strength by far. Most of the times a regiment would have, had have 3 groups. Okay, I'm getting my terms confused. You only have 2. I mean, instead of having a company would have maybe 80 to 100, maybe 120 men. So they were way under strength. Okay, so here we are now. It's the Uncle Donnie has just come up here. It's the 13th of July. It's nighttime. It's dark. And what they're setting up is there's 2 different divisions that are set up. On the left-hand side, over in this area here, you can see the 34th Infantry Division is set up. They're protecting the left flank, basically. And then this over here is all of the 19th Infantry Division. And it's covering about a, I don't know, 35-mile, 40-mile area. So it's quite a big area for, for them to cover, an under-strength group to cover. There's a couple big bridges across this area, and you can see the railroad goes through here someplace. I had it earlier. But, they're going to do the best that they possibly can. I got to figure out where I'm at on my slides because there's some names on here that I want to get right.
You have the Hans River Bridge and the Inji River.
Yeah, those are on up north again.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the Coombe River, which is Tegu, which is a little bit. It's between the 2 rivers that you were talking about. Okay. So the 34th is on the one side, and the Uncle Johnny's group is set up here.
You're talking about the Nangtong River.
Yeah, that's down at Pusan. Yeah, the Pusan area. That's just what they're trying to do again is set up with Pusan. This is before Pusan even gets set up. So here we are that Colonel Malloy is the guy that's commanded the 19th. And he sets up his company, as you can see, as much as he possibly can. He's got the 34th on this side. He's got over here some groups of the South Koreans, and he's worried about them. Company E's up here, Company C there, Company A, Company B. And in reserves, he's got G and H, which are back down in this area here where he first initially deploys. Again, this is a pretty much, mountains are going up to basically 2,000 feet. And then ground level, which is all pretty much rice paddies with human excrement in them, and some valleys in between. And that's about it. Very, very little roads. The roads are cow paths or ox cart paths. So not much you can do. Set up in this area, and he's on the 13th there, and he knows that the North Koreans are coming in. He starts getting a few battles, a few things going through there, and the first punch comes up in that area, or over this side. So he gets worried about it. He sends over his 2nd Brigade and says, go over there and protect that. They set up what's called Task Force McGrail. See on this side? And that's one of the light colonels that's going to go over and try to protect that. He takes with it, if you look down here, is Company G, platoon, the border platoon from Country H, which we think is probably Uncle Donnie, 2 light tanks and 2 quad 50s. And they go over to that side to stop it. And actually, it was probably a feint maneuver by the North Koreans. They do end up fighting and stopping that first press that's coming through that area. The main area really is coming in from that area right straight in front of A Company. However, by the same time, the North Koreans are attacking the 34th in volume to the left. They can hear that. They can see all the smoke. They know there's really a big battle going on there on the 14th. It's a really bad area. In fact, we got an email from a guy by the name of James Bolt, and he said he was downriver with the 63rd Field Artillery assigned to the 34th. And his company was totally overrun. They lost 11 officers and 125 enlisted in that battle there on the 14th. Just pretty much overrun totally. So the 19th, sitting in this area here, Task Force McGrail's hold up that area. We think Uncle Donnie's over on this side. The battle then commences then on the 15th. It's pretty much like the same battles that I've just described before. They feint to the one side, they attack en masse, it just becomes a massacre. It just ends up war. It just utterly enveloped them and had set up a major roadblock in this area right here, so they can't even get out. They're just stuck in this area. A lot of the men start heading up the hills. In fact, a lot of the wounded with a pastor and 2 corpsmen end up going up in the hills in this area, and they end up being massacred by the North Koreans. The one corpsman gets out, but the rest of them are basically massacred, just killed. was really, really a very, very horrible, horrible battle. It was actually the most medals ever awarded in any battle occurred in this battle with the 19th. It's just one of those type of battles. Warren report states the Company H fired mortars and machine guns and blocked the flanking maneuver. Again, they're over on this side. And then they come back in and end up help blocking and knocking out that roadblock so they can get some of the people out. There were 16 Distinguished Service Crosses awarded during the battle, most of any battle. And again, here they are fighting with World War II surplus. Every time a gun would go off, the North Koreans would know what it was and concentrate on it. Of the 900 engaged at the Coombe River, 434 are active on the next day. About 650 out of the overall, 19% in one battle. So here they are. They were pretty much beat up and done. Here's a picture of the actual commander at that time of Company H, Paul Reagan. It's taken a little bit later, about 3 or 4 months later, because he's a lieutenant at the time of the Coombe River. He doesn't become a captain until later. But here's the actual picture. We have all of the morning reports from microfiche. You can see they're in pretty good shape. You can kind of figure out what's going on. But this is for the battle of it. Now it's surprising, Captain Reagan, or Lieutenant Reagan at that time, signs all the morning reports up until the Coombe River. For some reason, from the Coombe River until at the end of July, he doesn't sign any more reports. No idea why. He does sign them again starting in August and on through. Another warrant officer, Moritz, actually signs the morning reports instead. Now there's reports that he ended up flipping out there for a while, but I don't know that for sure. And I won't disparage him too much, but you know, he did go through a lot at this time. He does end up getting a Silver Star for actions he does later in the war. Here's some pictures just straight from the Coombe River in that area. Tank down the bottom left, of course, is one of those Russian-built tanks. One of them got knocked out by a P-51. Bridge in the center is the bridge that was going across. You can see it's kind of sagging in the middle. First time we tried to destroy it, whoops, we didn't quite make it. We did get that bridge destroyed before they came across totally. It's a good story about the guy that does that, some engineer that goes out there and is the last guy out of the area. Again, you can see how much smoke's coming out of all of our stuff coming out. So what happens, of course, is at this point, we pull back, try to regroup. Where does it go from here? Yeah, here we go. So General William F. Dean, who's the general in charge of the 24th Infantry Division, meets with General Walton Walker of the 8th Army at Tejon. General Walker actually flies up to that airport. Kind of, you can see it up there in the top area there. And he meets with General Dean. General Walker says, hey, you got to hold Tejon for 2 days. If you can hold it for 2 days, I can set up the Pusan perimeter. I need an area that I can defend so that we can pump in more information, more army, more people, and defeat these people. So he says, I need 2 more days. You've got to be able to defend Tejon for 2 days. Okay, and General Dean says, I can do that. So he says, at this time, of course, the 34th, there's three regiments. The 19th and Uncle Donnie's in, and the 34th pulled back and are trying to regroup. The first group, the 21st, was a group that was pretty much defeated and decimated up at Osan and up in the other area. He's pulled back and is held in reserve. And they're over on this side. You can see 21st is way over here. So they're over in reserve. The rest of it, he's starting to pull up all his folks. He says, I'll hold this area for as much as I can. While General Dean's talking with General Walker, a transport plane comes in, flies in. The guy looks down there and sees that the airfield's being bombed. There's 2 generals down there talking. He says, I'm not going to land there. The story goes that General Dean got on the radio and said, son, you're going to land here, I'll shoot you down myself. The guy says, okay, I'll land. Lands there and kicks out like 4 crates and takes off within 5 minutes. Inside of those 4 crates are 10 of the new bazookas. They're the large missile ones that are tank killers. So they finally got some equipment now that can stop those Russian tanks. So they have those, just 10 of them. That's all they've got, is 10 of them. Those 10 ones were used to knock out 8 tanks at the Battle of Tejon. And in fact, the story goes that General Dean himself directed and shot three of those tanks himself, and ends up getting a Medal of Honor later in the battle. There's a second Medal of Honor that's awarded at the Battle of Tejon. during the repeat. So again, here we are, General Walker's told General Dean, you gotta defend us for 2 days, and General Dean says, okay, I'll figure it out. He has, 3 slight divisions that have been pretty much beat up already. Concentrates all of his artillery up around the airport area up there in that corner, and sets up there. And we think Uncle Donnie first would have been set up that area. He sends up the rest of the 19th down in this area, and the rest of the 34th up in their area, with a few people still around town, with the 21st over on that side. Again, the town of Tejon has 5 major roads coming into it, 5 roads coming into it, plus that rail line. Now the lucky point is at this point, they're still using that rail line to bring them in with ammunition. So they bring in this large train full of ammunition and so forth. So they've got lots of good supplies. They get pretty well supplied that way. And they have those 10 tank killer things. So the first night, it's fairly quiet. They hear some action. They have some artillery exchanges back and forth. Not much goes on. Second day, boy, they come through here. And you can see the North Koreans just come through there pretty much in wealth. And they have a pretty major battle through those areas. The 34th collapses. The artillery comes back into this area here. And we know from a couple of writings that Uncle Donnie's group, Company H, at this time did have a truck. And that truck comes back into that area here, into the town, a little bit right outside of town, and then goes into town. Now the North Koreans are doing what they typically do, fighting in mass, and they turn over the side and put up this huge roadblock over there on that east side of town. Now, if you look real close, you'll see that there's a couple of tunnels on that railroad train and also on that one little road that's going over there. So the 21st is on the other side of those tunnels. They don't even know there's a battle going on. The radios and so forth that they have at this time, the batteries don't work. Communications is pretty much non-existence between groups, especially during this battle. This battle, these guys are pretty much on their own. Each one of the lieutenants and so forth cannot get any commands or back and forth between the headquarters. They have no idea what's going on. The General Dean, who's in town, has no communications either. So he sends out a couple colonels and a couple majors to go out and get the updates. Most of them never come back. Just becomes a major, major mess. So here it is then on the 20th of July. We come back into this area. General Dean knows that he's in trouble. These guys are doing that. He thinks he might have people over on his side, and he ends up and says, okay, let's get out of here. He ends up to be fighting street to street. Ugly, horrible, urban fighting. Just one of the worst kind of things you could see. Let's hope this works. No, not that one. This one.
Tejon was the worst. Ask anyone where he felt it the worst, and maybe you'll hear a few other names, as it was bad all over. But most guys will say Tejon. Some places we were just outnumbered. But in Tejon we were outnumbered, outgunned, out-tanked, and outflanked. Out trying to poke a hole in their lines. No go. We tried another direction, but at the end of every road leading out of Tejon, there were thousands of North Korean troops, plenty of T-34 tanks. It got kind of confusing. There was one hot day, 100 degrees, and we just sat. There was no place to go. It was war, not the way it is in the movies. We were all tired, including General Dean. Flank attacks had cut every escape route. We gassed up, ready for a move. We were supposed to hold this hot town for 2 days. We held it for 3. It was get out or be trapped in Tejon. We got out. We fought our way out. General Dean stayed behind. He may still be there. It was a bad road out of Tejon. Some guys didn't make it. Tejon was burning. Dead town. The men who got out were heroes. The men who didn't get out they were heroes. There's no better word.
I don't know what happened after that. Uncle Donnie disappeared. So, of the 144 people that were in Company H that entered Korea, 71 of them were available for duty after the Battle of Tejon. Of the 3,933 engaged in Tejon totally, over 1,150 were casualties. The video we just saw, of course, was Humphrey Bogart doing the narration. It was a video that was put out by the Army in 1959. General Dean himself was one of the last people who were out of town. He actually goes out and hikes out up into the hills. That night, on the 21st, goes out looking for water for the wounded folks and falls down the hill and knocks himself out and stuck then behind enemy lines for like 6 weeks, and then is captured and then spends the rest of the war as the highest person captured in the war. He was awarded a Medal of Honor. We do know that, like I said, that Company H, Uncle Donnie's group, did have a truck that went into town. It's recorded in a couple of different books. We do know that that truck was the fourth from the